Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel for the next installment of our new figure showcase series. For today's episode, we'll be taking a look at my latest Hot Toys pickup, and that figure is the 6-scale version of Yelena from the MCU's Phase 4 Black Widow movie. Now, I've previously looked at the two versions of Black Widow that were released from the movie, as well as the Taskmaster figure, and frankly, I think the Black Widows may have been two of the best figure versions of the character we've ever gotten from Hot Toys, with my personal favorite being that white snowsuit version. And even Taskmaster was an awesome figure, so I have pretty lofty expectations here, given that this has been a pretty great line from Hot Toys to date. Now, as far as the movie itself, I've gone on record numerous times now saying that I love the movie. I know that puts me pretty much in the minority, or it seems to put me in the minority, but I thought it was really well done. Shoddy CGI notwithstanding, I think there was a lot of great story elements there. There were a lot of great story elements there, and a lot of great characters. And obviously, one of the best parts of the movie is the introduction of Yelena. And credit to Marvel and the scriptwriters and Florence Pugh, because they really made her a likable character with a lot of personality, and someone definitely worthy of picking up that mantle of the main Black Widow in the MCU. And I am looking forward to seeing her reappear in the Thunderbolts movie, which will mark her third appearance in the MCU after showing up in Hawkeye. If you did watch that show, I think most of us would agree that she was a big highlight, and in particular, I would love to see more of her interactions with Kate Bishop. So let's take a look at the overall package here, and she comes with a decent number of accessories, including her batons in multiple forms, some knives, a gun, and then the standard array of hands. So overall, a really nice release with some great display options. Not sure that she could have any other accessories, especially in this suit. Maybe the rocket launcher she uses during the prison escape scene that she fires from the chopper. Actually might try to find something suitable to recreate that scene, but other than that, I think what we're getting here is a fairly complete package. So now, moving on to look at the accessories in more detail, we'll start with the hands, and she does include a decent number. Hands are duplicated between left and right, but include posing hands as well as hands to hold the batons, the gun, and the knives. Detail here is nice, with the glove portion having some nice texture and detail work, replicating the stitching and the wrist straps, but I think for me the real highlight is the paint and detail work on the fingers. Some older figures and definitely some third-party figures give you hands where it just looks like molded plastic, where the nails just blend in. With Hot Toys and the recent slew of figures, and the figures in this line in particular, I've noticed that they're actually doing some decent work on the nails to set them apart and make them stand out. So I do love that attention to detail. Next up, you get 3 identical knives, and I'll start by saying that they're actually pretty small and thin, but the paintwork is top-notch, making these feel like a carbon fiber finish of sorts. But the real highlight for me has to be the handles, which have these openings within that just give the knife a distinctive feel, so really happy with the way these came out. And that leads us to the first set of batons, which include the individual pieces as well as the larger staff that Yelena assembles towards the end of the movie. So when the figure was announced, I made the assumption that these were going to be identical to the ones that came with the Natasha figures, with the more matte gray paintwork. But the only similarity I see here are the baton handles themselves, which have that simulated rubber with the nice chrome caps. But the rest of the piece is actually pretty unique, with more of a metal finish, a metal chrome finish that continues that motif from the handles, and these little yellow circles that are supposed to simulate joints. Batons really do look nice, and the staff has that same great level of detailing, and even the tips, which I think are supposed to be shock tips, have that nice chrome finish. So overall, really impressed with these, definitely more than I thought I would be. Now that does lead us to the next set of baton versions, which are the articulated ones. Paintwork and detailing is just as good as the ones on the fully molded versions, but they do articulate at the pivot points. My only complaint here, especially when compared to the ones that came with the Black Widow figures, is that the articulation is much more limited. Not because there are less joints, but just because the span between the joints is actually a little bit longer. So posing wise, it's a little more restrictive, but I'll see what we can do to make it look good. Now, next piece is an interesting accessory, and it's the headset that Yelena uses during that Red Guardian prison escape scene as she's flying the helicopter. Detail work here is really nice, with the mic portion having some pivot to allow it to fit well over the figure's head, and the headset looks nice with that green scuffed up paint for the earpieces and the silver metal clips within the padding as well, And in the back, you also get some wire pieces, so it's definitely a great looking piece. Just not sure I'll be using it. Maybe. It's great to have, but again, would have probably been great if we had the rocket launcher as well. Now, final piece here is her pistol, which is identical to the ones that came with Natasha, and they're more flat black paint app with a removable clip and a working slide that's actually spring-loaded. So no real issue here. It's a decent looking piece, but with other great 6 scale weapons on the market, I'm just not totally blown away by it. Not the worst piece though that I've ever seen. So with the accessories out of the way, let's jump to the figure and take a look at the sculpt. And I'll start by saying that since I have a harsher light on her, I think it's washing out some of the details and some of the subtle paint app work here. So I do have to say, I think in hand, in person, it's a pretty good likeness. Maybe not perfect, at least not in the video, but once you see her again in hand, I think it's a solid likeness overall. Detail wise, I think that Hot Toys did an amazing job. Eyes look very lifelike, and even the detail work on the earrings, it's impressive. But what really impresses here is the work on the sculpted hair. She has a really intricate hairstyle in the movie that obviously gets thrown a little bit more into disarray as the movie progresses, but I think Hot Toys did a great job replicating that, especially at the back where you can see all the braid details. Really an impressive piece. As for the rest of the figure, looking at snapshots from the movie, it is a highly accurate recreation of her appearance. And there's a ton to like here. First of all, her vest. It looks great and it closes with magnets, so I think that's a great way to avoid having to use clips or snaps like in older releases. It's just cleaner overall. But the highlight is the white suit itself, which is actually more of a nylon style fabric. So I didn't find it at all restrictive. But there's also some nice detailing on the sides of her leg and on her lower arms. Suit really feels maybe like a flight suit of sorts, but it's just really well done. And the belt with the holsters and the gray straps give you a nice color variation that looks good, and they are rubbery, so again, no dreaded pleather deterioration here. A few things to note regarding the knee pads too. They're attached to the figure via Velcro, so don't be worried if you accidentally knock one off. They felt loose on mine, and at first I was worried I messed something up, but then I looked closer and saw the Velcro. Shoulder pads are also loose, so you can move them around and position them nicely over the vest. So a great touch, and I also like that the pads are all scuffed up and not pristine. Helps sell the feeling that Yelena is an operator. And last of all, the boots. They're awesome. The look here is so much more like combat boots than anything we've seen before from Natasha, and the color palette just goes so well with the rest of her suit, and the split cut without a doubt works well. So overall, really impressed with what we're getting here. Now, posability wise, she's highly posable. Knees are double jointed, as are her elbows, so that's a huge plus to give her more natural looks with all the weapons, and just gives the figure a chance at more realism. And I love being able to get some dynamic poses out of her. Even just a running pose looks good. But on top of that, the ankle joints are actually a little harder and stiffer, and I feel like that helps her stand on her own, even in some dynamic poses, without needing the stand, which I always think is a big positive. Also, wrist pegs are really nicely done. Hands released easily for me, and I was able to insert them back onto the pegs with no issue. So at no point did I feel like there was any risk during the swaps of breaking those, which is a big concern always with me. So overall, I think this Yelena figure is a great release by Hot Toys, and a really amazing figure overall. So Hot Toys just continues doing what they're doing best. Even in a sea of figures, there's a lot here that sets her apart. And I have to say, forgetting how people felt about the Black Widow movie, Hot Toys killed it with this line. Both Black Widows, amazing. Taskmaster was okay. I think the figure has definitely grown on me over the course of the last few months, but I'm realizing it's a solid offering overall. And now with Yelena, it really did end up being an impressive line of figures. Only regret, after seeing how great these look, we never got that Red Guardian that Hot Toys teased. I know there was a third-party version out there that I actually covered, but even though I can be forgiving and I can take chances with third-party, that one just looked so bad to me that I couldn't pull the trigger, and I couldn't pick it up. I just couldn't convince myself to spend the money on that. So it would be nice if we get that figure at some point. Again, he's supposed to be part of the Thunderbolts, so maybe it's part of that movie. I do have to say, I really like that Hot Toys is also doing a better job with heights. At first, I thought they were off, because in real life, I think Scarlett Johansson is actually about an inch shorter than Florence Pugh, but I think the shoes on that Black Widow figure have a bigger heel, so I think the height is actually closer to what it should be. So I do appreciate that. Only other slight complaint, the expression on the sculpt, or maybe the lack thereof. Yelena as a character just had a ton of personality, and I think it would have been nice to have some kind of expression, maybe a smirk or something, just to add a little something extra. I get why Hot Toys does the more serious look. When they do expressions, sometimes it backfires. Case in point, the Peacemaker figure, although that one is now getting two faces. But I get that it gives them maximum flexibility for collectors. But maybe down the road with the Thunderbolts, there might be an option to give that expression to us. Also, with summer incoming, I'm curious as to what the summer releases might be, and the convention exclusives, if any. And I wonder if a Hawkeye version of Yelena could be in the works. Or maybe that's just my wishful thinking. So, like I said, I'm happy to add her to the collection, and as a Marvel-focused collector, having new characters is always a huge plus. And if there's one thing about Phase 4, we're going to have a ton of them. Sometimes I feel like I might actually be one of the last people still fully on board the MCU train, and that's okay, but I still find myself enjoying the properties. So that was a quick look at Yelena in 6-scale figure format from Hot Toys. Let me know what your thoughts might be on this release, and as always, thanks for watching, and if you are enjoying the content, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.